The city of Varlon never slept. Lights from alien ships filled the sky, and tall glass towers reached into the clouds. On the lower streets, however, life was different, cold, rough, and forgotten. Among the shadows of neon signs and humming hovercars, a young alien girl named Lyra walked barefoot, her silver skin covered in dust. Her eyes, once bright violet, now looked tired and lost. Lyra had no home, no family. She survived by collecting scraps and helping street vendors for a few coins. Every night she slept near the warm exhaust vents behind restaurants, listening to the distant sounds of laughter and music from the upper levels of the city. To her, those lights above were like stars, beautiful but unreachable. One cold evening, as rain poured down, Lyra saw something shiny near a drainage pipe. She bent down and pulled out a small, elegant wallet, unlike anything she had ever seen. It was made of dark blue synth leather with gold edges, and inside was a glowing diplomatic seal. Her eyes widened. It belonged to someone powerful, maybe one of the Earth diplomats visiting the Galactic Council. Her heart pounded. That wallet could buy her food for months, maybe even a home. She looked around. No one had seen her. The street cameras were pointed elsewhere. For a long moment she stood still, rain dripping from her hair, staring at the golden seal that represented Earth. Most people on the streets would have sold it instantly, but something inside her, a quiet voice she didn't often hear, told her not to. Return it, it whispered. Do the right thing. She didn't know why she cared. Maybe it was because her mother, long ago before disappearing, had told her that honesty was strength even in a cruel world. So, clutching the wallet close to her chest, Lyra began walking through the rain toward the upper district. Every step she took felt heavier. Security drones scanned her from above, their red eyes flashing warnings. Aliens in fine clothes stared as she walked by, whispering at the sight of a dirty street girl among them. At the gate of the human embassy, 2 guards stopped her. You don't belong here, one said. His tone was sharp but tired, as if he had said it 100 times before. Lyra held out the wallet with trembling hands. I found this, she said softly. It belongs to someone important. The guard frowned, scanning the wallet. His eyes widened when the seal lit up. This is Ambassador Hales, he said quickly. The name made other guards rush forward. Within moments, the gate opened and Lyra was escorted inside. The grand hall was unlike anything she had ever seen. Marble floors, floating light orbs, and banners with the Earth insignia lined the walls. Every step echoed as she walked in, dripping water on the polished floor. She felt small, like a speck in a universe too big to understand. Then a tall man entered the room. His suit was simple but elegant, his hair streaked with gray, and his eyes sharp yet calm. This was Ambassador Jonathan Hale, Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. He looked down at the soaked girl standing before him. You found this? He asked, holding the wallet she extended toward him. Lyra nodded silently, afraid to speak. Hale scanned her face, noticing her trembling hands and thin arms. There was honesty in her eyes and something else, courage. Do you know what this is worth? He asked softly. You could have sold it for more than you could earn in a year. I didn't want to, she whispered. It didn't feel right. Hale studied her for a moment, then smiled faintly. You're the first person in this city who said that to me in a long time. He called his assistant. Get her something to eat, he said, and warm clothes. The assistant hesitated, unsure why the ambassador cared about a street girl, but obeyed. As Lyra ate her first real meal in months, Hale sat beside her, asking where she came from. She told him bits and pieces, how her family had fled the destroyed moon colonies, how she had been alone since then. Hale listened silently, then leaned back with a sigh. Sometimes, he said, those with the least remind us what real honor means. But before the night ended, something unexpected happened. A holographic alert appeared on Hale's communicator, urgent, flashing red. He frowned as he read it. The message said, Unauthorized access detected. Diplomatic seal traced to lower district contact. Possible tracking breach. His eyes turned to Lyra. The wallet she had found had been used as a tracker. Someone was watching her, someone dangerous. For the first time that night, Lyra saw fear in the ambassador's eyes. The room filled with tension. Hale stood up quickly, sealing the doors. You did the right thing returning this, he said quietly. But now you're part of something much bigger than you understand. Outside, The embassy lights flickered as black drones circled above the building. And Lyra, the forgotten girl from the streets, didn't know that by returning a lost wallet, she had just changed the fate of two worlds. The night outside the human embassy had turned silent, but inside, the air felt heavy. Lyra sat near the large window, staring at the storm clouds flashing with distant lightning. Her heart still raced from what the ambassador had told her. She didn't understand why returning a wallet could bring danger, but she could see fear in his eyes, and that frightened her more than anything else. Ambassador Hale stood beside a table covered with glowing holographic screens. Lines of alien script scrolled quickly across them. His aide, a young officer named Marcus, spoke fast. "Sir, the signal from the diplomatic seal was intercepted. Whoever did it traced it back to her location in the lower district before the wallet was returned." Hale nodded slowly. "Then they know she's been here." Lyra looked up. "Who are they?" she asked quietly. Hale turned toward her. "You don't need to worry about that right now. Just know that there are people and species who don't want peace between Earth and this sector. That seal carries data about our talks with the Varnock Coalition. It was never supposed to leave this building." Lyra's mind spun. "But I just found it in the street," she said. "And that," Hale replied, "is what they wanted." Before she could ask more, a sudden alarm blared through the embassy. Red lights filled the hall and security drones activated. Marcus looked up in panic. "They've breached the outer gates. Unidentified crafts approaching. Stealth signatures confirmed." Hale turned to Lyra. "Stay close to me." Outside, through the large window, she saw dark shapes cutting through the rain. Sleek, black dropships moving fast toward the embassy's roof. The guards raised their weapons and plasma fire lit the sky. Lyra covered her ears as explosions echoed. The whole building shook. Within seconds, smoke filled the corridor. The security system locked down the main doors. Hale grabbed Lyra's arm. "We need to move," he shouted. He led her through a side passage that glowed with blue emergency lights. Every few steps the floor trembled as another blast hit the building. "Why are they attacking?" Lyra cried. "They think you know something," Hale answered. "You're the last person seen with that seal outside this building." They reached an underground elevator hidden behind a false wall. Hale pressed his hand against a scanner and the doors slid open. The elevator began to descend fast. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To the safe wing," he said, "and then off-world if we must." For a few moments the only sound was the hum of the elevator. Lyra watched him closely. Despite the danger, the ambassador remained calm. She wondered how someone could face fear with such control. When the doors opened, they entered a wide chamber filled with escape pods and armored vehicles. Marcus was already there, loading emergency supplies. "One pod ready, sir," he said. "But there's a problem. The attackers jammed our comms. We can't call for help," Hale frowned. "Then we'll have to make our own way out." Before they could move, a loud crash shook the chamber. A section of the ceiling burst open and metal shards rained down. Lyra screamed as black-clad figures dropped through the smoke. Mercenaries with glowing visors and strange weapons. "Take the girl alive," one of them shouted. Hale drew a compact blaster from his coat. He fired quickly, hitting two of them before ducking behind a crate. Marcus shouted over the noise. "They're targeting her, sir. She's the priority." Lyra froze in fear, but then she remembered something her mother had once told her. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing something anyway. Crawling under the fire, she spotted a small control console glowing near the wall. Her sharp eyes noticed a power cable hanging loose beside it. She grabbed it, sparks flying in her hand, and jammed it against the wet floor just as the attackers rushed forward. Electricity surged across the metal plates and several mercenaries dropped, their suits sparking violently. Hale turned in surprise. The little alien girl had just saved their lives. He rushed to her, helping her stand. "You think fast," he said with a half-smile. She trembled but managed a small nod. I used to fix street lamps," she said shyly. The remaining mercenaries fell back, dragging their wounded. Hale wasted no time. "Marcus, launch sequence, now." They climbed into the escape pod, sealing the hatch. As the engines roared to life, Hale entered the destination code manually. The pod shot through the underground launch tunnel, bursting out into the night sky just as the embassy collapsed behind them. Through the small window, Lyra watched the city lights shrink below. Her heart ached. That broken world was the only home she had ever known. "Where are we going now?" she asked softly. Hale looked out the window. Somewhere safe, he said. But I think whoever wanted that seal won't stop here. He leaned back, his expression grim. You may have saved me once, Lyra, but now I need to protect you. Because someone out there believes you hold the key to a secret that could decide the future of two worlds. The pod disappeared into the clouds, chased by faint red lights in the distance, and Lyra realized that her life on the streets had ended the moment she chose to do the right thing. Now she was running for her life, alongside the most powerful human in the galaxy. The escape pod glided through the dark clouds, its thrusters leaving faint blue trails behind. Inside, Lyra sat quietly, hugging her knees as thunder rolled outside. The small cabin lights flickered, and the walls creaked with the strain of re-entry turbulence. Hale stood near the console, his eyes fixed on the radar display. Still tracking us, he said under his breath. Those drones aren't giving up. Marcus, sitting beside him, checked the scanners. They're fast, sir. Military-grade models. Someone wants the girl badly. Lyra's stomach twisted at his words. Why me? I didn't do anything wrong. Hale looked back at her, his voice calm but firm. You did something right. That's what makes you dangerous to them. Her eyes widened. Dangerous? Because you exposed their plan, he said. That wallet was a trap, an access point. Whoever planted it wanted us to open it inside the embassy. You picked it up first, breaking their chain. Now they need to erase the evidence, starting with you. The girl's throat tightened. She had never imagined that an act of kindness could bring her into such chaos. Suddenly, the radar beeped louder. Marcus shouted, Incoming, 3 interceptors on our tail. Hale cursed softly. Hold on. He took manual control of the pod. It wasn't built for combat, but he knew how to fly under pressure. The engines roared as the pod dove into the thick atmosphere. Plasma bolts flashed behind them, painting the clouds in red light. Lyra gripped the seat as the pod shook violently. Her body lifted with each drop. We're going to crash, she cried. Not yet, Hale replied, pulling hard on the control stick. But we need cover. Ahead, the scanners detected a mountain range on the planet's surface, a perfect hiding place if they could reach it. The pod streaked through the rain, dodging lightning bolts and falling debris. The hull glowed from the heat of re-entry. Marcus activated the decoys, releasing a burst of bright flares. That should confuse their sensors. It worked for a moment. The red lights on the radar vanished, and Hale guided the pod into a canyon. The engines sputtered, and the warning lights blinked red. Power failing, Marcus said. We're out of fuel. The pod hit the rocky ground hard, sliding across the surface until it finally stopped against a ridge. The cabin filled with smoke and sparks. Lyra coughed, pushing open the emergency hatch. Cold wind rushed in, carrying the scent of wet soil and metal. They had crash-landed in the wilderness, far from any city or beacon. Hale climbed out first, checking the horizon. The land was dark and silent, dotted with glowing alien plants. Above, 2 moons shone dimly through the clouds. We're in the outer wastelands, he said. No signals, no sensors. That might buy us time. Lyra stepped out carefully, her bare feet sinking into the soft ground. It's quiet, she whispered. Too quiet, Marcus muttered. They set up a small portable shelter from the pod's survival kit. Inside, the air felt warmer, though the tension still hung heavy. Hale sat by the heater, looking thoughtful. Sir, Marcus said, we should destroy the seal before they track it again. Hale shook his head. We can't. The seal isn't just a key, it's also proof. If it falls into the wrong hands, the peace talks between Earth and the Varnock could collapse. Millions could die in the next war. Lyra looked at him with wide eyes. So this is about war? Yes, Hale said. And you're the only person who can prove we didn't lose the seal on purpose. Your name will be on every report, every investigation. She lowered her gaze. But I'm nobody. He smiled faintly. Not anymore. For the first time, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, hope. Someone saw her as more than a street orphan. The night grew colder. They took turns keeping watch. When it was Lyra's turn, she sat outside the shelter, watching the alien sky. The stars looked sharper here, the air thin and clean. She thought of her mother again. How she used to tell her stories about heroes from Earth who always did the right thing, even when no one was watching. A faint sound made her freeze. The crunch of metal, footsteps. She crawled back to the shelter. Someone's out there, she whispered urgently. Hale and Marcus grabbed their weapons, moving quietly to the entrance. Out of the darkness, glowing red eyes appeared, mechanical, not human. Drones, Hale muttered. They found us. Within seconds, blaster fire filled the night. Lyra ducked as sparks flew. One drone exploded near the ridge, sending shards of metal everywhere. Hale hit another with a precise shot, but more kept coming, faster, smarter, adapting to their fire. "Marcus!" Hale shouted. "The EMP charge now." Marcus activated the small spherical device and tossed it into the air. A blue pulse rippled through the canyon, disabling all nearby drones in a wave of silence. When the smoke cleared, the ground was littered with metal parts. Lyra's heart pounded as she looked around. "Are they gone?" "For now," Hale said, breathing hard. "But they'll be back with more." He turned to her, his tone serious. "We can't stay here, Lyra. At dawn, we move toward the old communication array. If we reach it, we can send a secure signal to Earth Command." Lyra nodded, her face pale but determined. She didn't understand the politics or why humans and aliens fought, but one thing was clear: her life now had a purpose. As the twin moons rose higher, she whispered to herself, "Maybe this is what I was meant for." And in the quiet wilderness, the girl who once searched for scraps in the alleys of Varlon was now at the heart of a conflict that would decide the fate of entire worlds. The first rays of the twin suns crept over the jagged rocks, painting the alien landscape in gold and crimson. The crash site still smoked faintly, a reminder of the battle that had taken place only hours earlier. Lyra woke to the cold air stinging her face and the sound of metal being packed. Ambassador Hale and Marcus were already preparing for the journey ahead. "We move in 10 minutes, Hale said without turning. His voice was steady, but the exhaustion in it was clear. Lyra rubbed her eyes and stood, pulling on the small jacket they'd given her. It was too big for her, but it was warm. "Where are we going again?" she asked, still half asleep. "An old comm array," Marcus replied, loading the last of the weapons into a hover sled. "It's about 20 kilometers north. Abandoned after the war, but if the power cells still work, we can reach Earth Command." Lyra nodded, even though she didn't fully understand how far that was. She looked around at the barren land. Nothing but twisted rocks, glowing moss, and silence. "No people here?" "Not anymore," Hale said. "This was once a colony. Then the war came." The three set off across the wasteland. Their boots crunched over dry soil as the wind howled through empty ravines. Every few minutes, Hale would stop and scan the horizon. Lyra noticed how alert he was, how even the smallest sound made him tighten his grip on his weapon. Hours passed. The heat grew stronger and their water supply ran low. Lyra's steps slowed, her throat dry. She tried not to complain, but Hale noticed her struggle. Without a word, he handed her his canteen. "You need it more," he said. She looked at him in surprise. "But you're the one leading us." He smiled faintly. "Leaders eat last." Something about his tone made her heart tighten. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. On the streets, it had always been every person for themselves. By noon, the group reached a ridge overlooking the plains. From there, the ruins of a once great city could be seen, broken towers half buried in sand, their metallic skeletons glowing in the sunlight. "That's it," Marcus said. "The comm array's buried under that old power station." As they descended, Lyra suddenly stopped. "Wait," she whispered. "I hear something." Hale froze. The wind carried a low, rhythmic hum, not natural. Marcus raised the scanner. Multiple signals. Not drones this time. A moment later, a figure stepped from behind the rocks. It wasn't human. The creature was tall, thin, with smooth gray skin and dark eyes like polished stone. It wore a long cloak, its movements slow but deliberate. Behind it, more figures appeared, 5, maybe 6, armed but not threatening. "Varnock," Hale muttered. The alien leader stepped closer. "Ambassador Hale," he said in a low, echoing voice. "You survived the attack." Hale raised his hand slightly. "For now, and I assume you're not here to finish what others started." The Varnock leader's expression didn't change. "No, we tracked the mercenaries too. They are not ours. Whoever sent them wishes to destroy both our world's peace." His gaze shifted to Lyra. "And that child, she carries the seal?" Lyra instinctively stepped back. Hale moved in front of her. "She's under my protection." The alien nodded slowly. "As she should be. But know this, human. Those mercenaries are not alone. A larger force moves toward this region. They will reach these ruins before nightfall." Marcus cursed softly. "We don't have time to repair the comms then." The Varnock leader extended his hand. "We can help you reach the mountains beyond." There is an ancient transport tunnel still working. It leads to the northern outpost, safer than this desert. Hale hesitated. Trusting aliens, even allies, was never simple. But they had no choice. Fine, he said. Lead the way. As they followed the Varnock through the ruins, Lyra looked around in awe. The ancient city was haunting. Walls covered with faded murals, broken machines half buried in dust, and faint blue lights still flickering after centuries. She touched one of the murals. It showed humans and Varnock standing side by side, exchanging gifts. What was this place? She asked softly. The alien walking beside her replied, It was called the City of Accord, built for peace, destroyed by mistrust. His words lingered in her mind. They reached a large circular gate hidden behind fallen debris. The Varnock activated an ancient console and the gate rumbled open, revealing a tunnel glowing faintly with green light. Stay close, Hale warned as they entered. These tunnels were made before our alliance. No one knows what's still down here. The air grew colder as they walked deeper underground. Echoes of their footsteps bounced off the walls. Strange symbols flickered on old screens, reacting to their movement. Lyra's curiosity pushed away her fear. She felt like she was walking through a forgotten memory of two worlds once united. Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the air. The tunnel lights flickered. One of the Varnock guards turned just in time to see something metallic dart across the ceiling. Defense drones, Marcus shouted. The system still works. Small spider-like machines dropped from above, firing red beams. The group scattered for cover. Hale fired back, taking down one, but more kept coming. The Varnock joined in, their energy staffs lighting the dark with blue lightning. Lyra crouched behind a pillar, heart racing. She spotted a control panel across the tunnel, its screen cracked but still glowing faintly. Without thinking, she ran toward it. Lyra, no! Hale shouted, but it was too late. She slid under a fallen beam and reached the console. The symbols were alien, but some looked familiar from the embassy walls. She pressed one, hoping it was the right choice. A deep hum filled the tunnel and the defense drones suddenly froze mid-air. Then they powered down completely. Everyone turned toward her. Smoke and silence filled the tunnel again. Hale lowered his weapon, breathing hard. Remind me never to underestimate you again, he said with a smile that almost hid his fear. The Varnock leader nodded respectfully. Clever child. You understand machines like they speak to you. Lyra just shrugged, nervous. I used to fix broken street bots, she said softly. The group continued deeper into the tunnel. Far ahead, the faint glow of daylight could be seen. But behind them in the shadows, a red sensor light blinked, quietly tracking their every move, and none of them knew that the enemy already waited at the other end. The tunnel opened into a massive underground chamber. Faint blue light poured through cracks in the ceiling, revealing broken machinery and a wide metal bridge stretching over a deep chasm. The air smelled of rust and energy, and the hum of old power generators echoed softly. Lyra stepped forward carefully, her heart still pounding from the last fight. The floor was wet, covered with a thin layer of mist that swirled around her boots. Hale raised his wrist light, scanning the area. This place hasn't been used in decades, he murmured. But the power grid is still active. Someone kept it running. Marcus frowned. Or something. The Varnock leader nodded grimly. The old machines have their own minds now. Be cautious, they began crossing the bridge. Every step made the metal groan. Far below, strange blue lights shimmered in the dark like sleeping creatures waiting to wake. Lyra walked close to Hale, her small hand clutching the edge of his jacket. She had learned not to show fear, but in this place even the air felt alive and watching. Halfway across, the lights below flickered. Then came a deep rumble. The bridge trembled. Marcus spun around. Movement! Below us. Without warning, a massive construct burst from the depths. A giant mechanical serpent with glowing red eyes and a body made of old ship parts. It rose from the chasm, circuits sparking, gears screeching. The ancient tunnel had awakened its guardian. Run! Hale shouted. They sprinted across the bridge as the serpent lunged upward. A wave of hot air and dust hit them. One of the Varnock soldiers fired a plasma bolt, but it barely scorched the creature's armor. It roared, slamming its tail against the bridge. Metal tore apart and part of the walkway collapsed behind them. Lyra stumbled, but Hale grabbed her just in time, pulling her forward. Don't look back, he shouted. The serpent swung its head toward them, charging its mouth with blue fire. Hale fired his blaster, aiming for the glowing joints, but it was too strong. Marcus pulled a grenade from his belt and threw it. The explosion shook the chamber, sending sparks flying, but the creature kept coming. Lyra's mind raced. She looked around desperately and spotted a control node near the bridge's base, one of the old power conduits glowing weakly. It looked familiar, almost like the panel she had seen in the city ruins. "Keep it busy," she yelled suddenly. Hale turned confused. "What are you—" But she was already running toward the conduit. The ground shook under her feet. She slid to the console, her fingers flying across the symbols. The language was ancient, but she recognized enough to guess what it meant. Power rewrote, manual override. She slammed her hand down on the switch. The lights in the entire chamber flared white. The serpent froze mid-motion as the floor beneath it began to glow. Energy surged through the bridge, straight into the creature's body. It screamed, electricity arcing through its metal scales. Then with a final crash, it fell back into the pit, vanishing into the darkness below. The silence that followed felt unreal. Hale slowly lowered his weapon, breathing hard. He looked at Lyra, who stood shaking, her hand still on the console. "You just disabled a 2-ton ancient defense drone," he said. "With a few buttons," she smiled weakly. "Lucky guess," Marcus laughed, relief flooding his voice. "Remind me never to argue with her instincts again." Even the Varnock leader gave a small nod of respect. "She thinks like a machine, a gift not many possess." Hale looked at the broken bridge, then at the glowing tunnel ahead. "We move. The longer we stay, the more this place will wake up." They continued through the tunnel until they reached another sealed door, larger and newer than the rest. Strange markings glowed faintly on its surface, symbols neither human nor Varnock. Marcus touched the door. "This isn't from the old war," he said. "Someone's been here recently." Before Hale could respond, the door slid open with a hiss. Bright white light flooded the passage. A group of armored figures stood on the other side, humans but not embassy soldiers. Their armor was black, marked with no insignia. The leader stepped forward, removing his helmet. His face was calm, too calm. "Ambassador Hale," he said politely. "You've caused quite the mess." Hale's eyes narrowed. "You're with them." "Not them," the man said. "We're here to correct a mistake. That girl," he pointed at Lyra, "has something that doesn't belong to her." Lyra stepped back instinctively and Hale moved between them. "You'll have to go through me first." The man smiled faintly. "That's the plan." Without warning, his troops raised their weapons. The tunnel erupted in chaos again. Plasma bolts lit the air. Hale pulled Lyra behind a fallen column as Marcus returned fire. The Varnock warriors fought fiercely, their energy staffs slicing through the dark. But the attackers were trained, mercenaries under human command. Lyra watched in horror as one of the Varnock fell beside her, his armor smoking. Hale fired back, hitting 2 of the enemy soldiers. Then the ground shuddered again, another explosion deeper in the chamber. The ceiling began to crack, chunks of rock falling all around. Marcus yelled, "Sir, we can't win this fight." Hale looked around, then spotted an emergency lift on the far wall. "That's our way out," he shouted. He grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her toward it through smoke and gunfire. The mercenaries followed, shouting orders. Lyra turned once more before entering the lift and saw the Varnock leader covering their escape, deflecting plasma bolts with his staff. Their eyes met for a brief second, his expression calm, brave, almost proud. Then the lift doors closed, sealing them off as the tunnel collapsed behind. Inside the shaking elevator, Lyra clung to Hale's arm. "Why won't they stop chasing us?" she whispered. He looked down at her, his face dark with realization. "Because you're not just a witness anymore, Lyra." He touched the small glowing mark on her wrist, the one that had appeared when she activated the ancient system. "You're the key now." The elevator groaned as it rose through the ancient shaft, carrying Hale, Marcus, and Lyra upward through layers of metal and dust. The walls vibrated with deep mechanical echoes, and small sparks flickered from damaged cables above. None of them spoke. The silence was too thick, heavy with exhaustion, fear, and questions that no one dared to ask. Lyra leaned against the wall, staring at her wrist. The glowing mark pulsed faintly under her skin, as if something inside her had awakened. It wasn't just light, it was alive, moving like liquid energy. She rubbed it, trying to make it fade, but the glow only grew brighter. "What's happening to me?" she whispered. Hale looked over, his expression tight. That mark appeared when you activated the old system, he said. Whatever it was, it recognized you. Recognized me, she echoed. I don't even know what it is. Marcus checked the datapad, frowning. Sir, I scanned her earlier. The energy signature isn't just a code. It's, he hesitated, biotech. The ancient kind. That system didn't give her access. It bonded with her. Lyra's eyes widened. Bonded? Hale exhaled slowly. It means, Lyra, that whatever technology built that place now sees you as part of it. And that's why those men will never stop chasing you. The elevator jolted as it reached the surface, the doors sliding open to reveal a vast, open plateau. The wind was strong, carrying dust across the barren land. In the distance, a line of metallic towers pierced the clouds, the remains of the northern outpost the Varnock had mentioned. That's our destination, Hale said, pointing. If we can get to those towers, we can contact Earth Command. They'll send help. Marcus adjusted his weapon. Assuming they still trust you after the embassy explosion. Hale gave a short, humorless laugh. Then we make them trust us again. They started walking across the rocky plain. The sky above was painted with two suns and long silver clouds. Lyra followed quietly, her thoughts spinning. Every time she looked at her wrist, she felt something inside her, like a whisper in a language she couldn't understand. Sometimes it sounded like static. Other times it almost formed words. After an hour of walking, she finally asked, Ambassador, what if this thing isn't just a mark? What if it's trying to tell me something? Hale stopped and looked at her seriously. Then listen, he said. Sometimes the universe speaks through strange voices. Don't ignore them. Before Lyra could answer, the ground beneath them shook. Marcus looked up. Incoming ships! Dark shapes appeared in the sky, sleek and fast. The mercenaries had found them again. Plasma blasts struck the ground nearby, sending waves of dust and fire into the air. Run, Hale shouted. They dashed toward the ruins ahead as explosions erupted behind them. Lyra's lungs burned, but she kept running, clutching her wrist as the glowing mark pulsed faster, brighter. The ships circled lower, their engines screaming. Suddenly, the ground opened beneath them, a hidden hatch that had been buried under sand for centuries. Lyra fell through first, sliding down a metal ramp. Hale and Marcus followed, landing hard in a large underground chamber. The air was still, filled with the faint hum of ancient machinery. Symbols glowed faintly on the walls, the same ones from the tunnel before. Lyra looked around, her wrist light syncing with the symbols as if the room recognized her presence. Hale caught his breath. This isn't coincidence, he said. It's guiding us. Marcus pointed at the center of the chamber. A large circular platform stood there, surrounded by floating energy rings. As Lyra stepped closer, the rings began to spin, responding to her movement. The mark on her wrist blazed brighter, filling the entire room with light. A holographic figure appeared above the platform, tall, faceless, and made of shifting blue lines. Its voice was deep and echoing like 1,000 whispers at once. Identity confirmed, it said. Protocol Guardian sequence reactivated. User, Lyra. Lyra took a step back, terrified. What is this? Hale's eyes widened. A Guardian sequence. That's ancient AI tech. It predates even the first interstellar colonies. The hologram continued. Warning. Peace accords compromised. Human and Varnock factions manipulated by external agents. Restoration sequence available through bonded host. Marcus looked at Hale. Sir, it's saying she can fix the conflict. The hologram turned toward Lyra. Bonded host, will you initiate restoration? Lyra hesitated. I don't know what that means. You are the link between worlds, the voice said softly. Your choice determines the outcome. Before Hale could speak, a blast shook the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling. The mercenaries had landed above them and were forcing their way in. Sir, we have to move, Marcus yelled. The hologram flickered. Warning. Hostile forces approaching. Protect the bonded host. Suddenly, parts of the wall came alive, ancient defense systems powering up. Panels opened, revealing turrets that turned toward the entrances. Hale grabbed Lyra's hand. You started something, and now this system's protecting you. But if it falls into the wrong hands... Lyra nodded quickly, tears in her eyes. I understand. Marcus began setting charges near the far tunnel. We'll block the entrance after we're through. Outside, explosions echoed closer. The first enemy soldier dropped into the chamber just as the ancient defenses activated, unleashing blinding beams of energy. Hale pushed Lyra toward the exit. Go, don't stop! The ground quaked as they ran through the tunnel. Behind them, the entire chamber shook with thunderous blasts, ancient weapons clashing with modern ones. When they finally emerged into daylight again, the ruins behind them erupted in flames. Lyra collapsed to her knees, shaking as Hale looked back at the smoke rising from the desert. She's not just a survivor anymore, he said quietly to Marcus. She's the center of it all. Marcus nodded grimly. And the galaxy just realized it. The wind howled across the plain as the twin suns burned brighter, casting long shadows over the girl whose single act of kindness had now turned her into the key to saving two worlds. The air shimmered with heat as the suns reached their peak. Lyra, Hale, and Marcus stood on a high ridge, overlooking what was left of the northern outpost. It was a graveyard of technology, collapsed towers, shattered satellites, and twisted cables stretching like veins through the sand. Smoke still rose from the ruins of the chamber they had escaped, and in the distance, dark dots in the sky grew larger. The enemy wasn't finished. Hale adjusted his scope, frowning. They're regrouping. Maybe a dozen dropships heading straight for us. Marcus tightened his gloves. We can't outrun them forever. Lyra stayed silent, staring at her glowing wrist. The mark pulsed faster now, almost like it was syncing with her heartbeat. She felt something, like the air itself was whispering instructions she couldn't understand. The same voice from before, calm and mechanical, echoed faintly in her mind. Host connection complete. Activation sequence ready. She turned to Hale. It's talking again, she said softly. It says something about activation. Hale's expression hardened. Activation of what? Before she could answer, a gust of wind carried a low rumble from beneath the sands. The ground trembled. The ruins below them began to glow faintly with blue light, lines of energy spreading outward from the spot where they had emerged earlier. Marcus stepped back. Oh no, tell me that's not what I think it is. Hale's eyes widened. The Guardian system. It's waking up. The light spread across the plain like lightning veins connecting the fallen towers. The metal structures straightened, gears whirring, ancient engines roaring to life. A sound like 1,000 voices whispered through the wind, forming words in Lyra's mind. Defense protocol activated. Bonded host confirmed. Awaiting directive. She stumbled, clutching her wrist. It's waiting for me. It wants me to give it orders. Marcus looked at Hale. If she controls that thing, she could level the entire desert. Hale took a deep breath. Or save us all. The first enemy ships broke through the clouds, engines roaring. Plasma fire rained down, scorching the ground. Hale pulled Lyra behind a fallen beam while Marcus fired back, hitting one ship's wing. Lyra, Hale shouted over the chaos. You said it's listening. Tell it to defend us. She hesitated, fear freezing her voice. I don't know how. Just try. She closed her eyes, focusing on the pulse under her skin. Guardian system, she whispered, protect us from the attackers. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground split open. Massive constructs, towering machines made of silver and blue alloy, rose from beneath the ruins. Their eyes burned with the same light as her wrist. They aimed skyward, releasing powerful energy blasts that tore through the incoming ships like paper. Marcus ducked as a fiery wreck crashed nearby. She just called an army out of the ground, he muttered. Remind me never to make her angry. Hale watched the machines move with precision, forming a perimeter around them. They're not attacking anything else, he said quietly. They're protecting her. But the battle wasn't over. From the lead enemy ship, a massive black drone descended, 10 times larger than the others. It hovered above the plane, its voice booming through the comms. Return the bonded host. Final warning, Lyra looked up, trembling. They mean me. The Guardian constructs turned their heads toward the drone, awaiting her command. Hale touched her shoulder. You decide now, Lyra. You can stop running. You can end this. Her heart raced. She thought of her mother's words, the promise to always do what's right, even when afraid. She raised her wrist. Guardian system, she said firmly. Disable the attackers without killing them. The machines glowed brighter. Energy surged through the ground again, rising like a wave. The black drone tried to fire, but its weapons short-circuited. One by one, the enemy ships powered down, falling gently to the sand as if caught by invisible hands. Silence fell. The air smelled of ozone and burnt metal. Marcus blinked. Did she just win a war with a sentence? Hale smiled faintly. Not a war. A beginning. The holographic figure appeared again above the battlefield, faint but clear. Restoration complete. Peace accords reinitialized. Host Lyra, recognized as diplomatic key between Earth and Varnock. Lyra stared in disbelief. Me? I'm a key? Hale nodded slowly. You didn't just save us, Lyra. You united two species. She looked out across the plains where the machines now stood silent, like monuments of light. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel small or forgotten. She felt part of something vast, something that mattered. The suns began to set, painting the sky in gold and violet. Hale placed a hand on her shoulder. When you returned that wallet, he said softly, you didn't just do the right thing. You changed the galaxy. Lyra smiled faintly, her violet eyes reflecting the sunset. Maybe, she said. Kindness really is stronger than power. And as the ancient machines slowly sank back into the ground, the wind carried her words across the desert, toward a new dawn where a once homeless alien girl had become the symbol of hope for two worlds.